are there. Where is there? Well, it's the halfway point of the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America Series, and it is from Watkins Glen, New York. 3.4 miles of some of the most historic asphalt you will find anywhere on any racetrack in North America, or perhaps even the world for that matter, and a record field of entrants for today's round. Watkins Glen, New York, in the Finger Lakes area. If you've never been here, you've got to come. The Finger Lakes, carved eons ago by glaciers, and it has left absolute beauty here. Part of that beauty is this racetrack. 3.4 miles, like we said, some great passing zones. Down the front straightaway, heavy braking into turn one. You can get it done there, but you've got to make sure that you don't sacrifice too much, because you need that good run all the way down to the inner loop. Over 170 miles an hour in one of these Lamborghini Super Trofeo Huracan Evo 2s as you head into the inner loop. Then hold on through the downhill, through the toe of the boot, as they call it, to turn 8. Another good braking place there. Then back uphill onto what they call the shortcut, the short course. Then through turns 10, the left-hander, that could be almost flat out. 11 onto the front straightaway, and you have completed a lap at this great racetrack. Welcome in, everyone. I'm Brian Till, along with Jeremy Shaw. And Jeremy, as I said, the halfway point of the season, and it's like these races about a month and a half apart or so, and it gives the drivers time to relax and do other things, but I think it makes them really hungry to return to competition.
It certainly does, and particularly on a classic race course such as Watkins Glen International, one of the all-time great venues around the world. Picture-perfect day today. There's a few wispy clouds around, but it's nice and warm, but not too hot. And I think the competition is going to be really hot this afternoon, because we've got a huge field of cars.
Yes, like I said, it's a record field. Chris Ward in the drivers' meeting this afternoon, actually a little bit emotional when he talked about it. He remembered back to the first Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American race. He said he thought they had like 16 cars. Now we're at 36. And he said we could easily have 40 by the end of the season. I think that speaks so much for this series, and really road racing and sports car racing all throughout the world right now. It has just absolutely exploded. You pull through the tunnel into this racetrack. This is a racetrack every driver wants to drive on. Every driver wants to win on. I had the good fortune of winning here shortly after the earth cooled. It was a long time ago, but I mean, it's a race that I still remember. And for every one of these drivers out here, 4 different classes, they're all looking for that same thing, the race win that they can put on their record from Watkins Glen.
Absolutely right. As you say, the previous record field was 32 for the opening rounds of the championship a couple of months ago. At WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, but 36 cars here. We've got 8 pro cars. We're all running exactly the same Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2, which is new for this season. Upgraded car even for what we had before, which is pretty special. We've got 8 pro cars, 7 Pro-Ams, 15 AMs, and 6 LB Cup cars, so 36 in total. And running down the grid here from the back, let me do that quickly, shall I? Car number 51, Claude Signoretti, will start in the 36th position. Alongside him, Michael Manella in car number 4. Row 17, Rodrigo Valles in car number 34, alongside John Hirschberg in car number 13. Row 16, Slade Stewart in car number 32. Alongside him is Caliber Bacon in car number 7. Row 15, Alan Grossberg in car number 2, alongside Fred Roberts, making his debut this weekend in car number 89. The LB Cup pole sitter is Scott Schmidt in car number 38. He will start 28th alongside Jeff Courtney in car number 66. Martin Fuentes in car number 45, and Tyler Hoffman in car number 9 make up row 13. Don Yount making his debut in the championship in car number 42 is in 24th position, alongside Lance Bergstein in car number 18. Nick Palmer-Lee will start in the number 77 car, alongside Charlie Martin, who actually is a pole sitter, in LB Cup. 21st position overall for Charlie for Dream Racing Motorsport. Top 20 then, Tom Tate in car number 64, alongside Shihan Chandrasoma in car number 19. Cam Aliabadi in car number 17, and Damon Oakey in car number 8 will share row 9. John Hennessy in car number 33, and Randy Solari in car number 3, who is the third place qualifier in AM, 15th position. Row 7 on the grid is John Miller in car number 11, and Jordan O'Brien in car number 99. Row 6, the Pro-Am car of Ashton Harrison, and a pole sitter in AM, that's Nico Riga in car number 48, Precision Performance Motorsports. Car number 47 next up on the grid is Sebastian Carrazzo, alongside Nelson Piquet Jr. in car number 30. Yes, the ex-Formula 1 driver and former Formula E champion. Row 4, Luke Berkeley in car number 23 alongside Jordan Missig in car number 53. Loris Spinelli will start in the 6th position in car number 88 alongside Billy Johnson in car number 71. Eduardo Liberati on the outside of the 2nd row in car number 27. The pole sitter in Pro-Am is John Capestro Dubets in car number 46 for Precision Performance Motorsports, and onto the front row of the grid on the outside from Finland, Patrick Kujala in car number 50 for Ogara Motorsports Change Racing US Racetronics. But on the pole position, a brilliant effort this morning in a shortened qualifying session for Wayne Taylor Racing from Costa Rica in car number 1. The pole sitter is Danny Formal.
You talk about the growth of the series, Jerry. It wasn't that long ago that you could read the grid without needing oxygen at the end of it. That probably took about 3 miles of the 3.4 miles of racetrack that we have here. But the front row forming up, you talk about that pole position for Danny Formal, and it's not just important because of track position, but those points that you get. You get one single point, and I look at it right now. Danny Formal, Kyle Marcelli lead the championship in the pro category by only 2 points. How many poles do they have? 2, now 3. So that lead is now extended out, and those pole position points could be crucial by the end of the year. 19 different winners in this field with the 4 different classes. We are about to come to green. Front row off the last corner from all in the black and blue, number 1 Prestige Performance entry. He jumps on the throttle early. Green flag is going to wave, and we are racing at Watkins Glen. That is a bunch of expensive sheet metal headed down to turn 1, and we got a car off the side, right back on, no harm, no foul.
The reason I didn't say anything, I wanted to say it was a clean start, but I wanted to wait till they got through the first corner, which they did, which they almost did. Slade Stewart, though, has had a problem, and he has pulled off at the entrance to the pit lane. Was there a right rear wheel on that car? Was it
I couldn't see. I'd have to see that shot again.
I think it was.
Yeah,
one of the rear tires wasn't on it.
Yeah, there it is. It's the left rear. It has come apart, so it almost looks like he got together with somebody, and there's a spin in the bus stop, and that is a problem. The inner loop, as they call it here, and if the field can get through here, they've dodged a bullet. Slade Stewart did not. He has that problem, stalled at pit in, and the start is under review.
And one of the reasons for that, I think, is the second place car pulled across the racetrack before the start-finish line to tuck in behind the pole sitter. You're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to maintain your 2x2 rows across the start-finish line. Only after that can you change position or change lanes even. That was a spin. Was that number 33?
I believe it was.
John? No, I don't think it wasn't. No. John. It wasn't John Hennessy. No, because that's an orange car.
Can't see it quite that
so
well
many cars
right now,
but for goodness sake, I mean, it's just
it has gotten to be so incredibly busy. And you talk about the start. There's a look at it from race direction. There should be 2 columns across the line, and there obviously were not. So the officials will take a look at that. That was Kujala in the black and orange, number 50, that made that move behind the pole sitter, and thinking that the officials aren't going to look kindly on that, Jeremy.
No, I don't think they are. They tend not to. And there's certainly, IMSA race officials are consistent. So I think that's probably going to be a penalty for Patrick Kujala, which is he's not going to be very happy about at all.
Well, and there's another cut down tire. And that's the car that spun, and I think that's from the contact, or these cars, that's the 53. These cars on the first lap or two, low pressure in these tires until the pressure builds and the sidewall really gets stiffened up because of that increased tire pressure. A big sideways slide, especially over curbs, can literally pull that tire right off that metal wheel, and I think that's what we're seeing right now for the 53.
Yeah, the odd thing is Slade Stewart, the LB Cup points leader, had that tire failure on the pace lap. That's bizarre. I mean, there have been, it has to be said, some tire concerns here, and even yesterday after the second session, actually just before the second session, but before the teams had an opportunity to implement it, there was a regulation change in the amount of camber that they're allowed to use on the front axle. The 2 front wheels have to be a maximum of 2.5 degrees of camber, which is down from what they usually run. So a little bit more conservative there, but already got a couple of problems here.
Yeah, but for Slade Stewart, it was that left rear, and when I looked at the car, Jeremy, there was body work behind it. Now, whether that's because the carcass coming off, or perhaps someone got into him as they got stacked up coming through the last couple of corners there, and it could have been cut down. As you see Slade Stewart motioning people by, you look just behind the left rear wheel, and what you see is the rest of that body's work is not there. And as I said, that could have been from the carcass coming off, or it could have been contact.
Yeah, so he's come into the pits. They've put a new tyre on, but he is a lap down to the rest of the field, Slade Stewart is. So even though he might make up some positions in the early stages at least, he is a lap behind everybody else at this stage. Just another look at that green flag, and even before the green flag waved, it looked like the second place car. There's that spin at the back of the field. Was that Slade Stewart?
That was Slade Stewart coming through 11. The tire had already come off, so perhaps contact in 11, but you should have seen two nice columns coming across the line, and you certainly didn't. Here's another look.
Yeah.
So they're coming up to the start, and see the outside front row as the field goes green. He drops right in behind the number one, and we also see a couple of other cars a little bit further back doing the same thing.
Well, Spinelli in the red, white, and green car, he was in a strange position. Well, he should have been on the inside of the second row, so there were certainly some cars out of position there. There is that Italian liveried flag car of car number 88. That's a Torino Racing run by D Motorsports these days. Loris Spinelli, who's fantastically fast in these cars. He's running in the Pro class this year. Last year he was running in Pro-Am with Claude Signoretti, but every single race last season he set the fastest race lap. Not worth the championship point even, not really worth anything other than bragging rights, but to get fastest lap in every single race is quite remarkable. That's exactly what Loris Spinelli managed to do last season. He's now got himself already up into the third position, having started on the should have been on the outside of the third row.
I was getting ready to say he may need that speed, because I'm sure it's not only Kujala in the 50 that the stewards and race control are looking at, and that could have been the problem. There's the number 8 with an issue, and you look back through the grid. Was he close to Slade Stewart? It's Oki behind the wheel of the 8, damage to the right front, and I could see a right front into a left rear, but
he was a long way.
Yeah, but he was a long way away from him.
Yeah, Damon started in the 17th position, and Slade Stewart started back in the 32nd. So, oops. And there's John Hennessy as well going around.
Yeah, the 33's around.
What is going on here? What was that? Was that just now?
It is. That's right now. It's live. So problems behind the safety car.
Goodness gracious. For
Oki and the 33 as well of John Hennessy. Hennessy's gotten it around, but look at the debris. Perhaps Oki got into the back of the 33 under that full course caution because they were gridded right next to each other. John Hennessy just in front of Damon Oki, so I'm thinking under that full course caution, Oki surprised by the accordion effect and must have gotten in to the left rear. Yep, there's the damage to the left rear, right front into the left rear. That's the damage we saw on Oki's car, and you can see the result there on John Hennessy's. And car doesn't look right to me, Jeremy. It looks like it's got a vibration in it, perhaps something bent there on the left rear suspension. Not the way you want to start the race. Yeah, indeed, definitely damage to John Hennessy's Lamborghini as he brings it back around to the pits. And you could almost feel the earth shake there at the start with 36 of those Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evos, over 600 horsepower, 170 mile an hour top speeds as they come thundering down the front straight. But it didn't really take long for it to go wrong. For Slade Stewart, it went wrong before we ever got to the green, and now even under full course caution, we've had problems.
And these are all teammates for the O'Gara Motorsport Change Racing US Racetronics conglomerate there. The cars of Damon Oki and number 33 of John Hennessy are all from the same team.
Well, it'll be an interesting team dinner tonight.
Yikes.
Who's picking up the tab?
Yeah, no kidding.
While the officials get this sorted out in pit lane and the track safety guys get the track taken care of, let's talk a little bit more about the details of Lamborghini Super Trofeo. 50-minute race. Some of the teams running one driver, some running two, a mandatory pit stop in the middle of this event, but that minimum pit stop time, Jeremy, we always talk about it, different for the one driver format versus the two driver format.
That's right, and for the teams that are running just a single driver, at that mandatory pit stop, there's a minimum time they have to spend on pit lane, which is, I think it's around about 80, I haven't seen the number to be honest this weekend, it's around about 85 seconds generally speaking. But if you're running a single driver, his stop has to be 3 seconds longer than the cars that have 2 different drivers. The reason for that, well, the driver who's started a race and will finish it, he already knows the track conditions, he knows how his car is handling, he knows how the race has been unfolding up till that point. The driver's getting into the car, he's cold. Yes, he can talk to the driver who hopped out of the car, perhaps you might have a few seconds worth of conversation time, but he's got to learn what the track conditions are like, how the car is handling, and so that is why that 3-second differential has been built in to the minimum pit stop time for the single driver cars.
So 90 and 93 seconds. While you were talking about that, I looked it up because I had forgotten the number myself. So 90 and 93 seconds. And you're exactly right. If you've been in the car for the first half of the race, you come in, you know exactly what the racetrack is like. You know what your car is like. And when you release the pit lane speed limiter button at the end of the pit lane, you're just right back at it again. For the driver who's coming in cold, he's going to have to build up to speed, and it's going to take a lap or two. And that 3-second number seems to be absolutely perfect. We've watched it on pit stops throughout this season. Well, that's a bit of debris you typically don't see on the racetrack. There is a 5-gallon bucket somewhere on the racetrack. Yeah, I am not sure that that's a certified Lamborghini part. I'm going to think it fell off of one of the safety vehicles, but now there's a little bit more debris to pick up on the racetrack, and we are just over 10 minutes into today's 50-minute race, and things not going well from the start. We talked about it for Slade Stewart, not going well from before the drop of the green. So this is where you got to get settled down right now. There are 2 different ways a driver can look at this. Settle down, get the car to the pit stop, hand it off to my teammate so that they can go out and run and we can collect points. For the driver who's a little bit more emotional and a little bit more high-strung, they may be thinking, I got to get this done right now. I got to get it done. I got to get it done. I need to charge to the front as quickly as I can because I'm not going to have much time left in the car here. I've got to get this done, and they're going to press hard and press forward very aggressively.
Yeah, just looking at the different class leaders, obviously Danny Formal is the pro class. The top 7 cars in the field are pro cars. Danny Formal in car number 1, Patrick Cuyala in car number 50, Loris Spinelli in car number 88, number 27 Eduardo Liberati, then Billy Johnson in car number 71, Luke Berkeley in number 23, and Nelson Piquet Jr. in car number 30. Then the Pro-Am leader, which is Sebastian Carrazzo in car number 47. And I'm wondering what happened to his teammate, John Castro Dubets, who started on the 3rd position, or should have started on 3rd position on the grid. I'm not sure he was there on the grid, though.
I think there was a hole on the grid, actually.
I think that's what caused that confusion, for me.
I think there was a hole on the driver's right, and
So John Castro Dubets is at the back of the field now. He's in the 29th position, but certainly I don't think he was involved in any of those incidents on the first lap or so. I think he perhaps started from the back. I don't know why, but I think he did. So number 47 then leads the Pro-Am class in the 8th position, ahead of Ashton Harrison in car number 25. Rounding out the top 10 is the AM leader, car number 99. That's Jordan O'Brien, who's come from the 13th position on the grid for IMSA Motorsports. Second place is the pole sitter in AM, that's Nico Riga. And then Joel Miller in car number 11, who's running in the pro class. Farther back down the order, the LB Cup leader remains Charlie Martin, so she's maintained her position now in the 20th position overall in that number 54 car for Dream Racing Motorsport. We're getting ready, I think, to go back to green.
Absolutely. A Lamborghini leading the field, as you would suspect, but for the most of the race up till now, it was the Lamborghini safety car. But back at it, green flag waves, and on a restart, single file restart, but as soon as the flag comes out, you are racing and are free to move forward. Drivers trying to do that right now, but a great jump by Danny Formal. And thinking about the championship, he and Kyle Marcelli came into this 2022 season, Jeremy, after some strong showings last year, but a real up and down season. Actually had a problem here last year, and they were determined to prove that they deserve to be up front on a regular basis, and consistency is what has them there. 2 wins on the season. They've got a 2nd place finish at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca in round 2. The only stumbling block was the first race at New Orleans and they finished a little bit further back in the pack there, 5th or 6th, but they came back the next day with a dominant victory. And so with 2 wins on the season, another podium finish, and now 3 pole positions, and I'll let the cat out of the bag. They're on pole for tomorrow's race in the pro category as well. This is going to help them in their points chase.
It certainly is. It's been a really good performance. They won 3 races last season, but as you say, it was a roller coaster, lots of ups and downs, but it's been a really fine performance so far by Danny Formal ahead of Patrick Cuyala. Has a wealth of experience in these cars, former European Series champion in the Lamborghinis.
Here are the penalties that we suspected. They are never released until after the field goes back to green. So under full course caution, even if the decision is made very quickly, you won't know until the green flag flies again. Let's line them up. Car 14, penalty, running the light at pit exit. That's going to be a stop plus 60 seconds. And then
the good news is he's already a lap down to everybody else. It's perhaps not too significant.
But here are the big ones. Car 50, penalty, false start, lining up on the wrong side, drive through. Car 88, this is interesting, false start, lining up on the wrong side, warning. 1 has a drive through, the 50 has a drive through, Jeremy. That's Patrick Cuyala, and the 88 of Spinelli, a warning.
But and I think the reason for that is that alongside Spinelli should have been John Capestro de Bet. So if he didn't take his position at the start, then the number 88 car would have been 5th on the grid, therefore on the inside line. So I'm presuming that's what the thinking is there, because there wasn't anybody alongside him on the grid, so he didn't have to be alongside anybody else. It doesn't matter where he is on the racetrack, as long as he isn't.
I'm looking at you with this funny look on my face, because I'm thinking as a professional race car driver, you know where your spot is on the grid.
You do, but there isn't anybody alongside him. That's the point. So therefore, he's not moving over into anybody else's space. I think that is probably the difference there.
True that. I'm wearing my official's hat. You're wearing your driver's hat, trying to explain to me why it's okay. All right, let's get back to racing. Danny Formal out in front, but not getting away from Cuyala right there behind him in the 50. But he will when the 50 has to come to pit road. And you've got to know that Danny Formal's crew is on the radio saying, hey, if he presses you too hard, let him go. Don't risk this car, because he's got to come to the pits. But here's the problem. You can't just give up too much, because you look right behind him. You were talking about the 88 of Spinelli. If he lets him go into the pit lane, Spinelli's going to be all over it.
Hey, I'm the racing driver, therefore, and I'm not letting anybody go, Brian Till. I'm staying where I am in the lead of this race. That's exactly what Danny Formal is doing. He's got his head down and pushing forward. I'm sure that number 50 team is perhaps pleading their case, which is why he wouldn't have come in that lap. But I think it's a bit of forlorn hope there, because he was clearly out of position as they came across the start-finish line. And Patrick Cuyala, he races in Europe, different rules in Europe, and that's one of the things you've got to get used to. And that's difficult for the Europeans who do come over here and are subject to these different regulations than they're used to. I think that's probably what caught him out, but it's certainly a good 3-car battle out front. They pulled away just a little bit from Eduardo Liberati in 4th.
Seems like everyone else has served their penalty. The only remaining penalty to serve is for Patrick Cuyala in the 50, still being shown on the timing screen. False start, lining up on the wrong side. He will have to serve a drive-through, and what you hope is that he races clean and fair to back around when he comes into the pit lane. Remember, he and his teammates 2nd in the championship, only 3 points behind Danny Formal and Kyle Marcelli. If he were to remove the 1 on his way into the pit lane, that would help with his points chase, because this drive-through penalty is going to hurt. But we've seen clean racing from these guys all year. I don't expect to see anything but today. Formal in front in Pro and Pro-Am. Sebastian Carrazzo still leads there. Jordan O'Brien in the Am category. And a little excitement up in the inner loop. And
Don Yount and I think that was car number 9. Yeah, I think that was Tyler Hoffman driving that car, trying to make up a position there for 19th and 20th positions.
But the good thing is, in the number 9, you've got the room to work there with those large curbings, and Hoffman up on that curb, gets the job done, improves the position, and then loses it back again to Don Yount. Yount sharing that car with Jaden Conwright this weekend. Conwright has been absolutely magic in it. Don Yount holding station right now, and they'll run in the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen on Sunday. So a lot of track time in a Lamborghini this weekend for Don Yount and Jaden Conwright. Down into turn 1, good stuff here. That's how you make a pass. The 46 getting by. That's the Pro-Am entry. John Capestro-Dubets, and you talked about it, Jeremy. Yeah. Back in the field, now working his way up through, and that's what you would expect to see from Dubets. Very talented race car driver, new to the Lamborghini series, but has been spectacular with his performance this year and trying to make up for whatever it was that set them back here at the start.
Yeah, whatever it was, maybe something went wrong on the pace lap,
yeah,
or whatever it was, but I think he must have started at the back of the pack. He was working his way forward, and there's some tremendous battling going on in the middle of the pack, and these are beasts of race cars, aren't they? But they do provide some tremendously spectacular racing. And up at the front, Danny Formal has just reset the fastest lap of the race last time around. It went 46.6 as he holds off Patrick Kuyala and Loris Spinelli. And that number 50 penalty.
He has to serve it.
He has to serve it.
Yeah, they'll stop timing.
I think 3 laps is about the limit, isn't it?
Yeah.
If he doesn't come in,
and he hasn't come in.
He's going to be in even more trouble. I think he's not coming in. That's bizarre.
And that is going to be a big problem.
He's clearly in the wrong.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it.
By my count, if he doesn't serve it this next time, he'll disappear off the timing screen, but he will appear in race control at the end of the race. So you can only argue your point for a certain amount of time, and then they don't want to hear it anymore in race control. And I think we've reached about that point, and he needs to serve the penalty. The other thing he needs to do is keep his emotions in check right now. And I'm wondering if the team has even told him about the penalty yet. They may be lobbying on his behalf. He may not have been told yet, so we don't know. We don't have their radio communication. But right now, the pit window has just opened. And here's the other thing. He can't come to pit lane, do his pit stop, and count that as his drive-through. His pit stop, his mandatory pit stop, is a separate issue. He'll have to do that and then serve his drive-through penalty. Yeah, as you say, the pit stop window has opened with the 20 minutes into the race. And number 42 car ducked in. Must have been really tight, but Don Yount is in the pits. Jaden Conwright, who will start on the pole position, I think, tomorrow. Yep. He is hopping into that car already, so making a little change at the earliest opportunity. And Jaden Conwright is going to have to work his way through the field. 19th place was Don Yount when he brought that car into the pits. I think he's the only. There's a couple of other pit calls as well. Number 2 car is in the pits, and Alan Grossberg, he will hand over to Dario Capitano in car number 2, running in the Pro-Am class as well. Yeah, the domino's starting to fall, and if you've got the driver in right now that is the slower of the 2, you want to pit as early as you can, get your fast guy in. Now the 50 is in, Kuyala is in. We'll see if he serves his penalty, Jeremy, or if he does his pit stop. If he simply does his pit stop, I'm wondering what the officials are going to say, because that's another time by the line that it wasn't served. So I'm wondering if there's going to be an additional penalty, or is this him serving his penalty? We're about to find out as he rolls down pit lane. And as I track him down through pit lane, he's running out of pit lane. He is serving his penalty finally. So Kuyala has served, and he served it right at the last minute. And I'll be interested to know if the team had actually told him about that up until that point in time, or if they told him and they were lobbying. I know they were lobbying the whole time. It's just whether they gave their driver the information. So I would expect to see Kuyala back on the racetrack, and there he is up through the S's and back in the pit lane this next time by. Yeah, that certainly is going to be very, very costly. He's going to lose a lot of ground, of course, by making that drive-through penalty. At least he doesn't have to serve the minimum pit stop time like everybody else has who's coming into the pits now to change drivers, that 90 seconds or 93 seconds for single driver cars. So he just had to come in, drive through, and get back on the case again. But it's still going to be very, very costly, having to twice come down the pit lane to include his mandatory stop, which will be coming up fairly soon for Patrick Kuyala. Jeremy Shaw, Brian Till with you. This is round 5 of 12 for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America action from Watkins Glen. Loris Spinelli takes over the lead as the pit stop cycles begin to take over here. Danny Formal had been leading in the #1 Prestige Performance entry from Wayne Taylor Racing. From the pole, they had led every lap other than the laps led by the safety car early on. They have made their pit stop. Kyle Marcelli taking over there. Spinelli staying on the track. Had a couple of drive-through penalties. Patrick Kuyala staying out until the bitter end in the number 50, and I think bitter is the taste that was left in their mouth after that penalty. They finally had to serve it, but they have not done their mandatory pit stop yet, so they'll have to get that taken care of here in the next couple of laps before they run out of time in the pit stop window. Spinelli, now with empty racetrack in front of him, will be hammered down. Interestingly enough, Jeremy, at WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca, we saw a lot of cars in the first race of the weekend doing tire pressure adjustments during the stop. You know, the weather was very different there in the race than it was in practice and qualifying, and it seemed like a lot of teams had overpressured tires. Here, I'm not seeing that, and it seems like the read on the car throughout the practice and qualifying sessions has been relatively steady and consistent, because I've not seen a lot of changes in these pit stops today.
Certainly good news, I think for the drivers. And Loris Spinelli turning some good laps at the front of the field. 147.0 last time around, 147.1 the previous lap. His best lap of the race, 146.7. So making use of that clear track at the moment is Loris Spinelli. He's pulled out about 3.5 seconds over Billy Johnson, who was also yet to make a pit stop. He cut off 71 in second place, and then the leading AM car, Jordan O'Brien, who remains out on the track in third place.
But it's still a matter of save. It's still a matter of endurance racing to some extent. You talk about the 47 flat, and now down to a 46.5, but the pole time was a 44.9, I believe. So you look at it, and it shows the bit of degradation that you're always expecting a racing tire, especially around a high-speed, high-load racetrack like Watkins Glen. You're going to hand that car and those tires to your co-driver when he gets in. So that second driver isn't going to have the most ideal Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 underneath him, because he's going to have some worn Pirellis on it. So great that Spinelli's out turning these lap times, Jeremy. But when he hands the car over, I'm wondering what Gianno Torino's going to think of the car that he's handed there at the end.
Yeah, but that was another, certainly, Loris Spinelli is quicker than Gianno Torino. Gianno is still in his second season, and so he's number 50 car onto the pit lane again. This time it will be for the driver change to hand over to Eduardo Piscopo, who's another guy with a lot of experience in these cars, but is not. He was a very, very accomplished driver in his younger days. I mean, sti's still only 34.
I was going to say, but you and me, that's a child.
He's no longer a professional driver. This is what he kind of does to work off steam, or this is a release for him, because he's a very accomplished businessman now, and he runs the entire O'Gara organization, which is, I think he said, it's 36 dealerships in the California area, and that is his primary focus these days. He just does the driving on the side, like for a bit of fun. Yeah, brilliant.
Well, I mean, why wouldn't it be fun to get in a Lamborghini Huracan Super Trofeo Evo 2 here at Watkins Glen? The 88 now on pit road. Problems earlier, but getting that taken care of, and now we're going to see some pit stop penalties. Car 23 getting one for crew member over the wall before the car stopped. So they're very specific. Looks like he's had a problem with the cord on the radio. They've taken it off the driver who was just exiting the 88. That was Spinelli, and perhaps Torino not with that piece on his helmet, so the crew member will take that cord that's sitting there by the door and plug it into his helmet. The question, though, is, Jeremy, about that, a lot of times the driver ID is on that radio plug, so we'll have to wait and see if the right ID is on it. Not sure if the Lamborghini has dual outlets and it's one for each driver, or some ID system use a dedicated plug on the end to identify the driver that's in the car. So we'll wait and see as Torino heads out on the racetrack if it does indeed register him as the driver of the 88. Torino now underway. And here's the thing, when you get the car back out there from the working lane, transition lane, now he's moving into the fast lane, screen right, driver's left. He needs to maintain that pace. He started to leave the pits and then slowed down a little bit. It's fine if you do it in your pit stall, if you realize you've released too soon, but what the officials will call you on every time is if you get out into the fast lane and then begin to slow down to make sure that you don't break out and are too quick on that pit stop, they'll get you every time for going too slow in the fast lane.
Yeah, so you've got to get your timing just right. I mean, the teams will know, having made some practice stops during the sessions yesterday, how long it takes them to go from release from a standstill in their pit box to that pit exit line. And they'll have a countdown on their dash, on their steering wheel to tell them, okay, now's the time to go. And then you go, and you're on the pit lane speed limiter all the way down to that exit line, and off you go. And you need to be within, as you say, within a second of that minimum pit stop time, in order not, if you go any more than a second underneath it, you're going to get a very severe drive-through penalty.
And up front, the AM class entry, Nico Rieger behind the wheel, the number 48 out in front. Impressive Nico Rieger has been all year long, Jeremy.
Well, and he's the last guy to come into the pits. He had number 45 car, I think, in the last two cars into the pits, number 77 as well, and the number 99. So all those four cars, they were the last to come onto the pit lane. So Nico Rieger, who led that lap 13, in the AM class leading car. Martin Fuentes running second in AM, about 14 seconds behind, also into the pits right now. And then Jordan O'Brien, who's running in the third place in the class. Not sure who's so far back. And then in fourth position, number 77, which is Nick Palmer-Lee, also in the pit lane as well. So from here on in, we're going to see the early leaders who've made their stop coming out and moving into the front positions.
They'll cycle forward. We were talking about Nico Rieger. He and David Staub lead the championship in the AM category. They have a win and two other podiums so far this season, including a pole position. That's why I was saying they have performed so well, and we're beginning to get things worked out timing-wise as the 88.
Yeah, it is.
Up
Who
front.
is in the lead of this race effectively at the moment. They're heading into the inner loop there, so it's not Laura Spinelli.
Yeah, no, it's Gianno Torino, and that's exactly what I was saying about the radio plug as to whether it was going to register him. And the officials don't like that either. You are required to identify the driver that's in the car through the timing system via that driver ID.
That's right. There's a little plug in there in the cockpit that they have to depress. And he's got a couple of laps, some kind of leeway to set that right. Has Gianno Torino. He needs to make that switch, though. He leads the race. There's a four-car train here with right behind him is car Marcelli, then Eduardo Di Marati in the Pitbull car, the purple car in third position, and then is Nelson Piquet Jr. in car number 30 for IMSA Motorsports. He won one of the races
at New Orleans
already this season at New Orleans, his first win in this championship. That was his debut this year. He didn't race in the first two rounds of the series, did Nelson Piquet Jr.
And IMSA Motorsport came back so strong at New Orleans. They had good showings in both of their entries there, and penalties again from pit stops, two pit lane speed violations, one for the 99 and one for the 14. Both of those will be stop and go penalties. And then number 11, another penalty for a crew member over the wall before the car stopped. So we've seen that twice, and then speeding on pit lane, and that'll get you every time. You cannot hide from the law, so to speak, on pit lane with the timing loops that are there. They know exactly the speed that you're going throughout the segments, in addition to utilizing a radar gun from time to time, but it's all done electronically. And Laura Spinelli still being shown in the 88, and the officials are going to take a dim view of that. We saw Spinelli get out of the car, and they took the plug off of his helmet and gave it to Gianno Torino when he got in, and I wondered at the time if that was going to be a problem, but timing and scoring keeps cycling and showing that it's Spinelli that's in the car, and I've got to believe it's that plug that they gave him to put on his helmet. Question is, with them knowing that, Jeremy, will they look at that and let it go and hand down some kind of a penalty? Here it is. See, they take the plug off of Spinelli's helmet. That's what was sitting there on the ground that we talked about. And then they plugged it into Torino's helmet. It looks like perhaps he had forgotten his, so they needed some way to communicate with him. But that plug is what identifies the driver. It plugs into their helmet and then plugs in, and that's what I was saying. I'm not sure if it's the outlet that it goes in or the transistor on the end of the plug. They're two different types.
Yikes, yeah. A 1:47.4 there for Giano Torino last time around. It's a good lap by Giano. It's only 0.4 of a second away from the lap times that Spinelli was turning consistently. He did turn a very, very fastest lap of the race, did Spinelli, 1:46.5. But Torino, to be within a second of that, is certainly good going.
No, hats off to him. This young man was impressive last year. And as you would expect for a new driver in the series, he had opportunities at times to showcase his talent, which he certainly did, and other times his inexperience shone through. But this year he's been very, very steady, and with a co-driver like Laura Spinelli, you know, you look at it, that driver pairing, and they had no choice but to make it a pro combination because he was so quick. But I keep looking at the timing screen, waiting to see if there's another orange banner that comes up with a penalty listed for the 88. So far, I have not seen it. The 4 different classes represented by 4 different class colors. The Pro, that orange color. Am is green, Pro-Am yellow, LB Cup is blue. And you'll also notice upper right on the windshield and also on the back of the Lamborghinis, that same color, and you can see it from a little bit farther away. You see the yellow on the 47, denoting that that's a Pro-Am entry down there on the left side of the diffuser and on the right side of the windshield, upper right corner. Good battles here. Spinelli having to work his way through traffic. Marcelli coming with him. Brian Ortiz there in the 47 that we were talking about, leading in the Pro-Am category as things heating up up front. Marcelli really beginning to put pressure on Giano Torino there in the 88. That Italian flag-colored livery there on the 88. We've come to notice it over the last couple of seasons. Very proud of the heritage there and literally bring that flag with them to every race. And I have yet to see a message from race control. I'm sure they've communicated with the team about that driver ID system, but you got to wonder if the officials are just simply saying, we know who's in the car, and as a matter of safety, it's better for the driver to have radio communication than not, so we're going to let it go. We'll have to wait and see if we can get some more information on that. Meanwhile, Kyle Marcelli, think about this, Jeremy, he's right there behind Giano Torino in the 88. He knows that he can put pressure on this young driver, but keeping up with Torino right now seems to be a problem, especially as Marcelli through the inner loop, held up with traffic just a little bit, and now the 27 of Liberati, that purple Pitbull car, right there behind and beginning to close down on the back of the number 1 of Marcelli.
Yeah, Torino got through that traffic nicely there, and Brett Jacobson there, who's another relative newcomer to the sport, did a good job in that car number 11 of keeping out of the way there of the leaders going through the inner loop. It's not an easy thing to do. And there's that car of Eduardo Liberati leaping around under braking at the toe of the boot there. Nelson Piquet, though, is right behind him. We've got a 4-car train, and then just two cars not far behind them either. So it's Torino, Marcelli, Liberati, and Piquet, the 4 leaders. Then Billy Johnson and Brian Ortiz in the best of the Pro-Am cars is doing a super job hanging on there as well in the 5th position. He is the Pro-Am champion from last year. That's Brian Ortiz from Puerto Rico.
Nelson Piquet Jr. now a part of this in that bright red number 30, closing up on the back of Liberati. And you don't want your driver to be counting points. You don't want Kyle Marcelli to do anything right now other than focus forward, drive the race car, don't put it at risk. But I'm sure the crew members are thinking right now, look, Torino and Spinelli, they're 4th in the championship. They may close a little bit on us if they finish in front of us, but it's not going to be worth risking the car for. Liberati, well, he's in 3rd in the championship right now, just about 10 points back of Kyle Marcelli and Danny Formal, probably 11 points after qualifying for today's race. So it's one of those deals where I'm sure the crew members looking at championship points, and they're going to tell their driver whether to press or whether to be careful. Right now, Marcelli looks to me, Jeremy, like he's beginning to press. He's really closed up on Torino as they went through the inner loop this time by. sweeping carousel at the end of it. It's just a long duration corner, pinning your head up against that pad on the left side of the driver's seat as PK Jr. a little wide through the laces of the boot. Trying to move forward. We talked about IMSA Motorsports doing such a good job when they came back to the series this year after running some of the races last year. Very strong in their showings, especially at NOLA. And there is Sheehan Chandrasoma in that beautiful gold number 19.
Yeah, he won. He scored his first win in the AM class last time around. Had 4 different winners in the AM class in the first 4 races of the season. Chandrasoma looking to break that streak to make it back-to-back wins.
Yeah, and not a lot of experience in racing altogether. It's interesting that he's in the AM category. And now pit stop penalties coming through for pit stops that were too short. The number 50 will receive one. Yeah, so the 50 has been beaten on all day long like a piñata, it seems like. 54 as well will get a penalty, a short pit stop time, 1.5 seconds short.
Yeah, you can't afford to make these errors. And number 54, that was running in the lead, still is running in the lead in LB Cup. Charlie Martin handed over that car to Jason Gagnon-Keats from Canada, and he is going to have to serve that penalty, and he leads by at the moment by about 9 seconds over Scott Schmidt, who's done a nice job in car number 38 for, that's one of the TPC cars, isn't it?
Marcelli.
Who's going to take over that position in LB Cup. And in third position is Fred Roberts, making his debut in the championship this weekend in one of the NTE Sport entries.
Marcelli really beginning to press. He was all over the back of Torino as they came up through the S's, and I think he may have had to even lift just a little bit. And when he did, he had to go defensive, go to the right side of the straightaway as they went to the inner loop because Liberati was right there, ready to take advantage. Marcelli's car seems to be better to me, Jeremy, in the tighter sections of the racetrack. I wonder if they're running just a little bit more downforce as they head into the heel of the boot. Marcelli again pressing, looking to the inside, trying to put pressure on Torino, trying to get the youngster to make a mistake, and they're going to have lap traffic in front. Torino just a little bit defensive as they come through turn 9. 10 and 11 in front of him. Marcelli has a run side by side with Torino and takes the position, takes the lead through turn 10. Excellent run. We talked about that car being better through the tight stuff. Let's see what happens when they get back to the straightaway and see if Torino might have a little bit more straight line speed, or perhaps, Jeremy, those lap times that we saw Laura Spinelli doing in the 88 a little bit earlier, perhaps they have taken all of the go fast out of those Pirelli tires.
Could be. It's certainly a factor in this race. Eduardo Piscopo, by the way, just set his car's fastest lap of the race. That's car number 50. That's the good news. The bad news is he still owes us a drive-through penalty. He's got himself back, even with the earlier drive-through for the miscommunication at the start. That car running in the 9th position overall and 6th in pro, but he's going to make another stop right now. But the main battle here remains up at the front of the field. That new leader then, Kyle Marcelli, looking to make it 3 wins on this season. The match is total from the whole of 2021, but Gianni Torino put on a good effort there. He's still hanging on in that 2nd position.
The good news is, whether it was done manually or they got it sorted out in the car, the timing system now showing Gianni Torino behind the wheel of the 88, so there'll not be a penalty to serve there. Now the pressure for Torino is coming from behind, right there on his rear wing now. Liberati in that bright purple number 27, the championship winning car from last season, really putting the pressure on, and PK right there with him as well.
He is, and he wants past, and right behind Nelson Piquet also is Billy Johnson, and right behind Billy Johnson is the Pro-Am leader Brian Ortiz. So that's a good, really interesting 6-car train there, all covered by, well, about 2.5 seconds on the previous lap. They're going to come around the final corner now. They're kind of bottling up a little bit behind Gianni Torino, and that allows Carl Marcelli to pull away. But he had to deal with some lap traffic coming through that final corner. Did the 2nd place car of Torino, and he maintains that position heading into turn 1.
Working through lap traffic. It's the 54. Yeah, they got around Keats. They've made quick work of that, but Torino, did he get held up a little bit? Will Liberati have a run? We've seen the 88 fast down the straightaway today, and as I said, makes me believe they're running a little bit less downforce. And there he goes again, pulling out about a half a car length to a car length as they head down to the braking zone for the inner loop. It'll be interesting to see if Liberati can make time through the tighter sections. That'll give us a better indication as to whether those aero settings are just a little bit different. Through what they call the laces of the boot, Kyle Marcelli has said, see ya, once he got by. Now he just needs to be careful with lap traffic as he works his way through. And he's left the battle for Gianno Torino in that Italian liveried number 88. He's left that battle to Liberati just behind. So Eduardo Liberati trying desperately to close back up on the rear wing. And I think by the time he gets back around to the front straightaway, the tighter sections of the racetrack once again, the 27 seems to have the advantage, but as they clear the S's and onto the back straightaway, the 88 seems to run free. Good stuff. Back on the long circuit, or the short circuit, I should say, from the longer circuit, the 3.4 mile section. And wide was Liberati that time through turn 10, out into no man's land. And the official said, we'll let you occasionally venture out and exceed track limits as long as you're not gaining an advantage. The advantage right now, Liberati tries to go around the outside, side by side through turn 1, now into the S's. Well, this is where the 88 has seemed to shine all day long. And now for Liberati, being hung on the outside of the S's right there has brought Nelson Piquet Jr. right up to his rear wing as they make the run down to the inner loop. What does Piquet have? Liberati defensive to driver's right.
Yeah, great racing between this, well, it's a quintet of cars, isn't it, battling for second position. Another slower car again there for Gianno Torino. Oh, he gets cut off going into the carousel.
And what can Liberati do? That slower car in front really balked Torino. Yeah, now Liberati right there.
Yeah, Mark Kawami, I think that was. He did his best to get out of the way, but it's an awfully difficult place
you can't
to do
disappear,
it.
right?
No, you can't. And he's done well. He's going to defend the inside position here. Is he down into the toe of the boot? Just about. And good driving there by Gianno Torino. He kept his head about him, didn't get flustered by that lap traffic having been held up. He's got this big train of cars behind him. He's getting defensive now, is he?
Well, he is, and in the driver's meeting, Todd Snyder, who's the race director for Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America, had told the drivers, you guys have been pretty good about blocking all year long. Keep doing the same thing, and this time, Liberati just got the drive off the heel of the boot, and with him, Nelson Piquet Jr. trying to get by as well as they come into turn 10. He can't get it done, but what a drive off of the heel of the boot for Liberati. I've got to believe either it's an aero thing or the Pirellis are just exhausted on the 88 of Torino.
Well, yeah, quite. Plus, he was defensive, wasn't he? So he cost himself a bit of momentum going into the corner. And then the next one, Liberati makes his move. But Gianno Torino, his best finish so far in his championship is a 4th. He's running 3rd at the moment. Can he maintain that position? And a Nelson Piquet? No, he can't.
I think the tires are gone. He couldn't get the car to the apex of 1 that time. Piquet Jr. had not put his nose in. He had room to get there if he wanted to get there, and I think he certainly wanted to be at the apex. But for Gianno Torino, I just think those front tires said, no, I'm not going to do it, and they're just going to continue to degrade the harder that he pushes. And you can tell those cars that have gotten by him are now setting sail. Just under 3 minutes to go, round 5 of the 2022 Lamborghini Super Trofeo North American Series. Jeremy Shaw, Brian Till with you. Some great racing right now, and Gianno Torino and that Italian flag liveried number 88 through the laces of the boot, now just dropping back, doing everything he can. Billy Johnson gets by in the number 77, and Torino going backwards, and this is the price that you pay for using up too much when you're the first driver in the car. And I think Torino got a car that was very quick. Laura Spinelli, his teammate, proved that, but perhaps he should have saved a lap or two for young Gianno Torino, because now Torino dropping like an anchor.
Yeah, He is, isn't he? And his last lap around, even before this one, was a 1:50. The race leader, Marcelli, at 47.4, so 2.5 seconds on that last lap. And I think this one could be a little bit worse even for Torino. But he did a nice job when he was running up there front. He's still learning. He will have learned a lot this afternoon.
Well, and here's the thing. This is when you've got to learn to control your emotion as a race car driver. The frustration that he feels behind the wheel is like when you're on a golf course and you've got this great game going, and then all of a sudden a couple of double bogeys in a row, maybe a snowman thrown in there on the scorecard, and if you let it get to you, it's only going to continue downhill. Torino does not have a fast race car anymore. He just doesn't, and he's got to realize the best thing that he can do is to drive it to its potential, and it's the potential that's not lacking, not Torino's skill level. It's the ability of the car to perform right now, and Torino just needs to get it to perform the best it can and take the result that they get.
That is definitely true.
Cannot throw it away. Just under a minute to go. Class leaders, Kyle Marcelli, he and Danny Vermael. Vermael with a pole position. They've been up front all day long. Brian Ortiz leads in Pro-Am. In Am, Sheehan Chandrasoma. Another great run for that driver. We talked about the lack of experience that he has, and in these 600-plus horsepower beasts, he has put on a great show. Coming back around, just 30 seconds to go. Unless Kyle Marcelli slows down, will it be white flag, or was the white flag shown last time by? Will he have to do another lap? 20 seconds to go. He just came through turn 10, now turn 11. I think this one's going to be close, Jeremy. I think the white flag is going to be shown this time. He couldn't slow down. So final lap starts with just 6 seconds left on the clock. It's one of those things that if he had had a little more space, maybe he could have backpedaled and made that the checkered flag, but he'll have to run one more. That is not good news for Torino, and it's not good news either for Chandrasoma. We were just talking about him. He loops it coming back onto the short course there.
Yeah, he'd been struggling on the last lap. He lost the position to the Pro-Am car of Bryson Liu. Let's see what, yeah, he just
all
lost
on his own.
Yeah, I think he was definitely struggling in the last couple of laps at Chandrasoma. He's spun it around, and how many positions he's... I have to see where he was able to rejoin.
Well, that's what we were talking about knowing what your car will give you and how much do you want to take out of it. In the closing laps, without very many more to go, if you're in a safe position, don't put yourself in danger by continuing to press on at a pace that will get you in trouble in LB Cup. Looking back further,
Chandrasoma continues to lead.
So he had
such a big lead. He's David Starb, though, having taken over from Nico Riga, doing a really good job is David, because he was struggling. He's also driving in the Mazda MX-5 Cup Series this weekend. He goes from a Mazda to a Lamborghini. Yikes, that's a big step. But he struggled in the Mazda, but he's doing a fabulous job here, running second. He's just set his personal best sector time as well in Section 1 as David Starb, in kind of a 48 in second place overall, 13th in Am. But here now comes Kyle Marcelli, just a couple of corners to go.
Couple of corners to go, and he and Danny Vermael will extend their points lead. Watkins Glen has started out on a high note, a pole position in race number 1, and the win as well. Danny Vermael, Kyle Marcelli win at Watkins Glen in the pro category of Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. What's it going to be in Pro-Am? A great battle there as well throughout all the classes. Brian Ortiz has been spectacular behind the wheel of the 47 all day long, remains so, and takes the win there with Carrazzo in the Pro-Am category. And in Am, Sheehan Chandrasoma had that problem coming to the white flag, and it looks like timing still has him up there. We'll see if he remains the leader as they cross the line. He's not gotten to the checkered flag yet, waiting for the results in Am. And there's Chandrasoma across the line, and even with the problem that he had, he can now take a breath, Jeremy. I'm sure he was holding it the entire time as he got the number 19 started and back on course, but he takes the victory there. And in LB Cup, the checkered flag has fallen, and that was on Scott Schmidt in the 38. That was a late race change. He took that position away from Jason Keats there in the final lap.
Oh, did he? Yeah, but what number 54 car was supposed to serve a penalty, wasn't he? You're right.
That could have been what it was.
That did change places on the last lap. I don't think it served his penalty, and I'm pretty sure number 50 car didn't serve the extra penalty as well. He finished in the 8th position overall, did Eduardo Piscopo, closing very rapidly on Tom Long in the Pro-Am class toward the end. But I think there's going to be a few changes here after these when the final results come out.
Well, I guess the good thing for Piscopo is if they give him a post-race time penalty equivalent to a drive-through, it's going to drop him 1 position.
True.
So doesn't have a lot to lose, but we'll see.
It would have made no difference either way. You're right, in actual fact. That's right. Because he's still going to lose. How far ahead of the next car was he? Luke Berkeley, only about 15 seconds. So it'll be more than that. But a great win there by Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal, who set the tone there with that brilliant first stint and the pole position this morning. So maximum 16 points for Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal for Wayne Taylor Racing and the Paramus of New Jersey dealership. They will extend their leads in the various championships. No, actually, Palm Beach holds the lead in the dealer championship coming into this weekend with a 9-point edge over Paramus. But this will certainly help Paramus' cause. And the dealer and the team championships, by the way, are ridiculously complicated to figure out.
Yes, they are.
So trust me, there's only two points between Wayne Taylor Racing and Precision Performance Motorsports in the team championship. But with that win today for Carl Marcelli and Danny Formal, that'll certainly help their cause. In Pro-Am then, Brian Ortiz, a tremendous drive. He and Sebastian Carrazzo win in Pro-Am for Precision Performance Motorsports. Those are the top 2 teams in the overall championship. Tom Long comes across the line, 2nd place in Pro-Am, 7th overall for Wayne Taylor Racing in car number 25. 3rd in Pro-Am is Bryson Liu and John Capastro Dubetz, who started at the back of the field, a really good run for them. In Am, as you said, Sharon Chandrasoma holds on in that car number 19 for the win for MCR Racing, being a really good run for him there despite that spin in turn 9. Spin and win then for Chandrasoma. David Starb in 2nd place in car number 48. And in 3rd position in Am is Cam Aliabadi, another first-year racer. We talked about Chandrasoma having done a little bit of racing, but not much racing in the past. Cam Aliabadi has done none prior to this season. A brilliant run. Once again, very impressed by Cam Aliabadi this season. Finishes in the 14th position overall, 3rd in Am. And you mentioned it in LB Cup, a change on the last lap with Scott Schmidt getting past Jason Gagnon-Keats to win in the car number 38 for TPC Racing.
4 different classes in Lamborghini Super Trofeo North America. 3 of the 4 championships will close up. Only Kyle Marcelli and Danny Formal will extend their championship lead. And we're just through the first half of the weekend. Another race tomorrow, race number 6. That will mark the halfway mark in 2022. For Jeremy Shaw, I'm Brian Till. We'll see you next time.